Keizo, just talk us through the national election results right now. How does the LDP view this election win for Shinzo Abe? Was this a vote of confidence, or do you think at the end of the day this was just by default, given the disarray we see in the opposition?
The positively, we can evaluate the great outcome on landslide victory of LDP and the very strong leadership of the Prime Minister Abe, and then another reason, as you mentioned, is that a kind of a confusion of the opposition parties gave us a very positive circumstances under which each candidate in single constituencies could more easily to join the battles.
The Prime Minister, expressing a bit of humility even during his victory speech, saying, look, I do know that there are some people that are very against the LDP and against my views as well. I mean, yes. 51%, and according to one poll, say they don't want Shinzo Abe to stay as Prime Minister even after this LDP victory. How does he change, and how does he change that sentiment here right now?
This is very important things that, just before the general election, remember that there are several difficulties because of the kind of Moritomo and Kake, the scandals for the Prime Minister himself. Therefore, his approval rates, unfortunately declined, and this approval rate increased. And then, even though we had the landslide victory of the general election, the Prime Minister should always keep a very low profile, and then they carefully handle the landslide victory, not only as the real, the strong, the person who enjoyed the victories, but also he have to, create his very careful and sincere political positions to the people of us, and then he have to re-strengthen his own stable and consistent leadership again.
Well, given the supermajority, do you think that his priority now is more on constitutional revision? And
everybody mentions that the constitutional revision became the major part of his job, but actually not. The major, the agendas he have to handle will be very serious the national security issues because of the nuclear acquisition of the North Korea, and then also how we can reactivate our Japanese economies under the very speedy aging. That sort of subjects are still very serious, the subject of us. And also many people, the voters of us, had very serious concerns with the social welfare services rather than the constitutional reforms. Therefore, the social welfare services still should be given the highest priority of us.
You mentioned a little bit about North Korea. We have the President Trump coming to Japan here next month. And how should Japan react to this? I mean, most people in Japan are not very favorable or not, very much liking the president at the moment.
Actually, I don't know what sort of reaction of our people have when the President Trump visits to Japan. But we do realize that personally, the Prime Minister Abe has a wonderful friendship with the President Trump, and those are the trust of the leaderships. Is always the basis of our security alliance, especially under such serious situations in the Northeast Asia.
We have both President Xi Jinping in China, also now Shinzo Abe, the Prime Minister in Japan, solidifying their mandates for both these countries. Do you see a warming of ties because of this now by the end of the year?
Now that we are having a really positive political circumstances in the Northeast Asia because of the victory of the Prime Minister Abe and also the Chairman Xi Jinping, he could quite successfully handle the party conventions. Both the leaderships now has a more strong, stable domestic political basis on which they can more positively negotiate each other. Specifically, we have a very serious common agenda, North Korea's nuclear acquisition.
But for Japan, it's always been this tie with the U.S. to try to rein in North Korea. Is there another way for maybe perhaps Japan to play a bigger part in all this?
The President Trump's the coming visit to Asia may have a very strong positive impact on both the leaderships to commit on a kind of a rapprochement between us, on which we can, commit on more smoothly how to, resolve those North Korean issues more peacefully and through the diplomatic, the aspects, I think.
So, Keizo, before I let you go, in terms of the diplomacy of things, do you see some potential three-way summit then between Xi Jinping, Shinzo Abe, and perhaps President Moon in South Korea? What are the prospects of that?
The three-party talks, I hope that we are having the three-party talks by the end of December this year among China, North Korea, China and South Korea and Japan. But most of the cases, the participants of three-party talks from the China is not the Xi Jinping, is the Prime Minister, China's Prime Minister. But there is still these three-party talks become very important diplomatic, outcome of us as a result of the new, the political development between us.